Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Horn Camp Connect, live from KBHC 2022. I'm your moderator and Horn Camp staff member, Elizabeth Simmons, and today's session will feature Bernhard Scully as our warm-up faculty, and then, well, not warm-up faculty, you are a faculty person who's leading the warm-up, and then showcase Sadie Glass, who will present on the topic, how to teach the first lesson. As always, before we jump into this session, a few Zoom housekeeping items, which you can all probably recite by this point. So that everyone's able to hear the presentation, we've muted all participants. Please stay muted for the duration of the session unless one of our presenters asks you to unmute. If you click on participants at the bottom of the screen, you should see a participant list pop up with your name at the top. If the name associated with your Zoom account is different from your own name, please click on the blue More button next to your name, select Rename, and enter your own name. If you'd like to include your pronouns with your name, please do. If you click on chat at the bottom of the screen, you should see a chat box appear. Comments posted in the chat are, of course, affected by the drop-down menu above the text box. Depending upon your selection, your comments may be viewed by everyone or by a particular individual. Each time that you enter a comment into the chat, please double check your selection so that your comment isn't seen by your intended audience. And with that, hand things off to Bernhard.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody. Thanks, Elizabeth. I'm sitting in front of you right now at the White Mountain School on day 2 of KBHC in person. It is absolutely amazing to finally be in person again after 2 years. And so we're delighted to be broadcasting these warm-ups to you via Zoom, as we've done before, sort of a little combination. So this is day 2 warm-up. So you have your packet, and we'll just get started. So we're going to stand up and do some stretches. Every morning at the camp, we do these warm-ups. Getting everybody ready to play, a long day of playing. So we're going to start with some twisting. So full twist is like this. This is to limber the body up before we play the horn. So let's do 10 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you can get a little farther, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now we're going to do a fold over, which is touch your toes, but only go as far as you're able. So you're going to do 10 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Now we're going to do some side bends. You can either do them just like this, or if you can get a little more stretch with it, you can take your right hand, grasp it with your left hand, and when you move to the side, you pull a little bit, get a little better stretch. So 10 counts. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to do some arm rotations. So backwards, this is like so. So do 10 backwards and 10 forwards. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now 10 forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're going to do lastly, some shoulder shrugs. And these are just to get the last bit of lactic acid that might be building up here out before we play. Work all that tension out. So backwards first, like so. Here's 10 of these. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, hopefully you feel pretty limbered up from that. We're gonna do a little bit of breathing now. I'll turn my metronome on to 60. So I believe yesterday you worked up to 6. Today we're going to be starting at 3 in, 6 out, and we're going to do 4, then 8 out, 5 in, 10 out, and then 6 in and 12 out. By the time we get to 6 in, we are completely full with our full capacity breath. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Good. I forgot to mention, if you want to use your hand for the inhalation, get a little more resistance, that's good too. Here's 4, 8. Ready? 1, 2, ready, go. Good. 5, 10. 1, 2, ready, go. Good. Now lastly, 6 and 12. 1, 2, ready, go. Good. As we go through the week, we'll be expanding this more and more. Now we'll do just a couple of our capacity breathing sets, and that's when we take a big old breath in, and we top it off, and then we blow out, and we blow out until we get to the very last part of your air, then you hiss, so it goes a bit like this. I think this is what Jesse did yesterday, but if it's different, then we'll do this one. So it's going to be a big old breath, top it off 2 times, and you don't have any more. Yeah. Okay, we'll do 2 of these. 3 of these, sorry. Here we go. First one. Ready, go. Everything's up. Okay, number 2. And lastly, 3rd one. And this one, try to get even a bigger breath and try to go even more empty. Here we go. Okay, that will bring us to our first notes of the day, so get your horns out. So remember, with all the exercises, we're going to be doing them as breathing exercises as well. We're going to take that great breath we took and do it every time. So we'll start with a bit of a free buzz. Just do it where it's easy. My first free buzz is usually. Go ahead and try it. I'm going to do it on the mouthpiece. we're just gonna listen to our sound. We're just gonna kind of experience it. You know, the goal of this point in the practice is to become very content with our sound, to really fall in love with our sound before we take it to the other exercises. Okay, and you can use, I recommend some of these open notes in the horn, but obviously I can't hear you, so whatever note you want. But I would suggest a mid-range note, something that's fairly easy. So here we go. Try it a couple times. Really, really relax into the sound. Think of the syllable who. Okay, now we're going to move on to the ho-do-do exercise, and this is going to be a confirmation of what we just did, and we're going to build a nice mid-range octave with it. And we do recommend staying on the F horn for a lot of these things, but you by no means have to stay on the F horn. All right. D. E flat. Sharp. G. A flat. A. B flat. B natural. And C natural. Okay, hopefully you feel pretty comfortable with that range. So now we're going to quickly take a moment to engage with some music, which I highly recommend somewhere near the beginning. You could do it the very first thing if you want, but I do recommend pretty early on engaging with something that gets us thinking musically, because that, after all, is the goal of playing. And we do an hour of warm-up without any music, we may or may not be prepared for that. So why not make all of these studies, whether they seem musical to you or not, musical sound breathing studies, and actually including some musical help. So I've taken the liberty of choosing some music from around the world. Yesterday you heard a Ukrainian song. I kind of surprised Jesse with that, but I've been learning some Ukrainian music, which is amazing music. I didn't know as much about it, obviously to support today we have a nice traditional melody from Mexico, Aurora Mi Niño. And what we're going to do is we're going to sing it, then we're going to buzz it, then we're going to play it. We might even do a little creating with it. You can think more creatively beyond just the page. So first note, I'm just going to sing it on law. Here we go. So it's a lullaby. La 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 la. Beautiful melody. So now we're going to go on the mouthpiece and we're going to take that same phrase, the same idea. And by the way, I think singing is directly related to horn playing. You can think of the horn as simply an extension of your voice. So I think the more you sing, the more you engage with music singing, the better it's going to make your horn playing. So we'll take what we did in the mouthpiece and then the horn. Here we go, mouthpiece. 1, 2, okay. Good, you can feel free to slur it if you want to. And now we'll go on the horn, trying to do the same thing. We're going to play the same music, same phrasing. Here we go. 1, 2, thinking phrases, we're thinking beauty. So to create with this, I mean, you could simply just take it in a new key. You could go a little faster with it, possibly. Change the style of it just a bit, or maybe even add some notes. Just start thinking that way, or you might even do something more. Maybe you take the first 2 bars and you kind of play around with that. Whatever suits your fancy. Have fun. Get your mind into a really pleasing moment in whatever way you like, and choose songs that are your favorite songs. Okay, so now we're going to be building our free buzz a little more from what we did. Just adding one more bar from what yesterday was. Where we're starting, and you don't have to have a free buzz to play the horn, but it is one of the tools that can help us. So there's nothing wrong with building it, and I think if anything, it simply will help us in the end. I had a number of teachers. I had Doug Hill, Gail Williams, Fortis Vergara, all really believed in free buzzing, and so I think a lot of people do it. I advocate for it. I'll demonstrate this. So what's going to happen is we do the first bar, and in the second bar, the tonic note becomes the leading tone. So. All right, let's everybody try this. Don't worry if it feels weird, and also you should start wherever it's easiest. If this is not a good place to start, try it on a place that you can do it. I obviously can't hear you right now, so you can do whatever you want. Let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Good, and we'll expand on this each day, just adding a bar or so. Now we're going to expand on our mouthpiece sirens we started with yesterday. We did an octave from C to C. Now we're going to add the lower octaves. So mouthpiece sirens, we're going to be trying to get all the sound we can between these octaves. So the first one sounds a bit like. edges, just continual sound. And then the second one. If you can hear it, that second one goes through my personal break, which is between C and C sharp. It really hits it pretty hard, and that's good. What this kind of is like is if you think about the breaks in the range as little wrinkles in a shirt. What this is like is ironing out the shirt. Maybe we can never fully get rid of those wrinkles. They're going to be there a little bit, but we can sure make it look nice and have it be smoothed out as much as possible. So let's try this from C to C and G to G. Here we go. Two. Should you use up all your air? And now the G to G. Okay, tomorrow we'll add another octave. So now with our harmonic series, we're going to be adding another note. We're going to be adding the E, the D, sorry, two notes, D and the E, the 9th and 10th partials. And I will go a little faster than 60 with this one. It'll be like 72. So we expand the. So remember with this one, you really want to bump the notes into place. Don't try to play too smooth, but focus on your air. I'll do it just a bit. So I'm just blowing, letting the face respond. Let's try everyone together, and then we'll kind of go through the harmonic series. 1, 2, 2. 1, 2. Lastly, 1, 2, and 3. 1. Okay, and now we're going to add a little more flexibility to this by doing 8th notes. I'll turn it down to 60. We're going to keep taking those big breaths. So we're going to start where we just left off on the 1, 2, and 3. So this again goes up to the 10th partial. It's going to sound like this. Just really blow right through it. Okay? 1, 2. Now 1, 3. 1, 2. Two and three. 1, 2. Now 1, 2. 1, 2. 1. And lastly, fingering open. 1, 2. Okay, should be pretty limbered up for that. We'll build on it again tomorrow. So now we move on, with our lip trill builder for the week. Many people say, well, how do I do lip trills? And I always tell them, well, it's a long process. It doesn't just happen overnight. It goes in steps. So by the end of the week, we hope to, build a full-blown lip trill for you. And if you notice in the end of the exercise, from E to G, these are the notes you can do on the whole step, with a whole step trill. Above the G is going to be only half step trills on one finger, and below the E is going to be only minor thirds and beyond. So I recommend, if you want to really learn your lip trill, practice this exercise on all those notes with their various fingerings, which you can find in the Farkas and Doug Hill and Andy Gardner books and everything else. So how you can think of a lip trill, actually, in the quoting Jeff Agrell, one of my favorite people, he always says, well, lip trill is just a adjacent harmonic slur, which is not as catchy as a lip trill, but that's what it is. It's just a harmonic. We're slurring over two harmonics back and forth. The air needs to move a bit faster. You can think of them as air trills. So we're going to start slow and then move up into the subdivisions, and today it gets up into the triplets. Somebody has a question, but I will get to that a little bit later. Okay, so we're doing fingering 1 and 2. This is kind of a nice place to start. I think it's a nice mid-range. It's easy to produce, not too high, too low. So I'm just going to be thinking about sustaining my air, being relaxed. My air has to move a bit faster throughout all of this to make the shifts. Okay? Here's what it sounds like. 1. Okay, just one nice sustained air stream. Let's all try it together. 1, 2, huge breath. And in your own practice, you could try them on other notes of the horn. Okay, so now we go to our beautiful sounds. We're gonna kind of engage the valves a bit more. That was all harmonic series type work for the last few minutes. And now we'll keep the airstream going, keep the sound going, but now add our valves. For these beautiful sounds, we recommend staying on the F horn if you choose, but you can use the B flat horn if you like. So I'm gonna go change the tempo to this to about 72. A little bit faster. And I don't know what Jesse said yesterday, but I recommend singing this and buzzing it as well, like a melody to start. So let's just try that real quick with the first one on the F concert here. So I'm going to sing it. Everybody can sing with me. 1, 2, 3. No. Now we'll do it in the mouthpiece. Okay, very sustained. 1, 2. Good. Now we'll do it in the horn and we'll continue on with the other notes. Ready? 1, 2, 3. B flat and 1, 2, Okay, we're going to turn the page. A few more. We're going to try to get down to the G today. So here's D. 1, 2, B flat, 2, E flat, 2. down to it today. And lastly, I think we're moving pretty fast through the warm-up today. So let's try the articulated chromatic scale. Today we're going to be in eighth notes. We'll go back to 60. So you can choose your articulation how you want, ta, da, tu, or do. And then we're going to start on the F horn alone exclusively, and then we're going to do it on the B flat horn alone exclusively to start to learn our fingerings on both sides of the horn. Chromatic scale will hit all of them, of course. Okay, let's try it. Here's F horn. 1, 2, G is going to be trigger 1, the F sharp is going to be trigger 1, 2, a couple different fingerings. 1, 2, 3. If that seems really challenging to you, don't worry. A lot of folks don't practice that, but I encourage you to do it every day, because the more you do it, the more familiar you get, and then it becomes old hat. And then you'll have both sides of the horn available to you. Think of this horn not as two separate instruments, but as one integrated instrument. So, all right, so now we're going to go the articulated major scales and arpeggios. So yesterday we just did the scales. Today we're going to add the arpeggios. We'll move through it. Let's go a little faster than 60. I think we can do a little faster. Let's try 72. Bet you can do that. Okay, so we're gonna. This is now again in the circle of fifths. So the whole week I showed a circle of fifths, just to kind of give you a sense of what that means. It's a great way to work on the scales and also get a little bit of musical theory in the process of it. Okay. Again, choose your articulation preference. And I recommend kind of switching it up. I'll do that today. I'll kind of switch it up from to do da. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do G. 1, Turn the page, we're almost done. 2, right? E flat. 1, 2, right? B flat. 1, 2, right? And lastly, F. 1, 2, right? All right, well, finishing record time. There's an optional warm down on the pedals for you, and I'll just demonstrate that real quick, but we won't go through the whole thing. We'll have some time for questions today. Set it for 60. I recommend doing this if you're in any way feeling tired. Sound like this. And so on. If it's too low, you can do the octave above, but it's a really nice way just to kind of get some lactic acid out of the face and feel relaxed. So thanks for joining me with the warm-up this morning, and hope to see you in 2 days, because Jesse will be back with you tomorrow. Thanks so much.
Just to be clear, we do have another presenter in just a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're not signing off quite yet. Just
don't go anywhere.
Heads up, stick around for
In
that.
fact, my daughter actually is going to be the guinea pig today. So if you want to see, I think that you're going to do the announcement. But
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
So we'll have Sadie Glass setting up here in just a second. Give us a second to switch over, take a break, get in some more stretching, especially if it's a super early morning for you. And we'll be right back with you. Bernhard, if you could come over here and answer some questions, that'd be
Sure.
great.
Okay, so hi.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hopefully you can hear me all right. Can everyone hear me okay, just to make sure? Great, thanks Lupe, I appreciate it. So Bernhard, we had one question from Suzanne from Quebec. And this was during the beautiful sounds exercise that you did, should they be done on both B flat and F sides, or would you pick one over another? How would you prioritize that?
I mean, I think it's always useful to do things, on the B flat side as well. I think that particular exercise, since it's slower, it's not particularly technical in any way. I've always done it on the F side, but again, we don't. I would never mandate that. And I think the reason we would suggest doing it on the F side, and so much of this on the F side, is a couple things. Like one, it's harder. It's when you get to the high range, especially, and even the very low range, it's going to really ensure that you're very efficient and you're using your air. If there's anything that's not quite working, it's going to show it. Whereas the B flat side, we can just, it's more secure. We can get away with a little bit more.
Absolutely.
With it. So if you can do it on the F side, you can certainly do it on the B flat side. And also from a sound perspective, I think the F side is, we get this opportunity to really have this expansive sound. And B flat, and then what I like to think of is then we can, on the B flat side, kind of come at it that way. Like we have this sound concept, and then when we play the B flat side, we're kind of bringing that concept into it. Which, if you're a really experienced player, maybe you don't necessarily have to do that. But I think especially in developmental years and, for early playing in the day, I personally like to kind of go back to what I call like my roots, and just do natural horn, do the F horn, because sound is, so important to me. It's a bit of tradition in it. That's why I would say, so you can do what you like, but those are some of the reasons I think we would do the F horn.
I would definitely agree with all of that. If there are any more questions for Bernhard, I'm happy to direct them to him. But if not, we can go ahead and switch over to Sadie and her special guest, Maddie. In the meantime, if anyone's typing a question, we'll give you another couple seconds for that. But Bernhard, how's camp going so far? What's been your favorite part thus far?
Oh my goodness. Well, I taught long tones yesterday. Which is
Okay,
my
amazing.
favorite. I mean, that's my favorite.
I mean, it's a great favorite to
Isn't
have.
it your favorite?
It is my favorite, absolutely.
Well, you know why it's my favorite? Because it is the thing that makes me the best. I mean, that's like the thing that will, work on anything to improve myself. Long tones and focusing on your sound and control. I mean, it may not be fun, but it certainly does the job.
I think it gets fun after a while too, personally. Like at first they're a little bit tedious, but once you get into kind of a groove and a routine with them, I think they're really lovely.
So I think that's definitely always been part of our camp. I teach the fundamentals class here at the camp, which is, what Kendall kind of began the camp with. And, it's the kind of stuff that oftentimes is not the preferred thing to practice, but it's the stuff when you practice it actually makes you the best.
Agreed.
So it's kind of like eating your vegetables. So I'm serving up a lot of vegetables this week.
Fantastic. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So with that, we're going to take a second and switch back over to Sadie. Bernhard, thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thanks,
We'll
Elizabeth.
see you again on
2 days from now.
Yeah, that's Wednesday. I was going to say Thursday, but it's 2 days from now.
See y'all later.
All right. Hi, everybody. We're just gonna tip the camera down a little, I think. A little more. Hi, everybody. My name is Sadie Glass. I'm so excited to be here with you all again. So normally you would see me with a natural horn, but I thought I would do something a little different this summer and talk about a concept that is often overlooked. So private teaching is an amazing side hustle, and it's great for college students, it's great for adults. And one of the top questions I get from a lot of my students is how to start a beginner from day one and organize that lesson and make sure that the students understand what's going on. I know I often feel kind of like this weight of responsibility when it's like, I get to start a student on horn. It's not switching someone from trumpet or flute. And it's like, I have to make sure that they have no bad habits so that when they continue onward, we can say like, oh, I studied with a horn teacher who knew what they were doing. My embouchure's right. I know where to put my right hand, all those things. So I definitely feel like, don't worry too much about that responsibility. You don't have to do everything in the first lesson. And often we're teaching 10-year-olds. They cannot handle too much at one time. They're going to be overwhelmed. So definitely the biggest thing you can take away from teaching that first lesson is to leave your student feeling confident and excited and not overwhelmed and maybe a little almost discouraged. So there's so many ideas we want to talk about, right? From that first lesson, you're thinking embouchure, tonguing, right hand, posture, maintenance, how to take the horn in and out of the case, the list goes on, but you only have 30 minutes. So, and actually I'd recommend probably not having more than 30 minutes because again, a 10-year-old just cannot sit there for more than 30 minutes. It's even hard sometimes to make it 30 minutes when you're working with someone that young. So you want to make sure you hit the right points in that first lesson. And again, just suggestions. This is obviously not written in stone here. So the narrowing it down, and on the handout, I kind of have this bullet pointed. So if you want to have this and take notes, it's all written out for you. But the things that I kind of like to hit in that first lesson are first building rapport, handling the horn, taking it in and out of the case, buzzing on the mouthpiece placement, brief posture check-in, right hand, get them playing and singing, how to put the horn away and send them home with something to play, which sounds like a lot, but you kind of have to breeze through it and just like briefly touch on all of those. Things that I usually try to say for the second lesson are building on all of these concepts and also like saving articulation for the second or maybe even the third lesson.
So before I come to this first lesson, I do a little bit of prep, which depending on the student, I may or may not do, especially with some of the older students. I like to teach with having student run lessons, but when you're getting a brand new student, and even just young students in general, they don't know how to run their own lessons. So things that I come with are painter's tape, a few chapter books, oil and grease, a chamois, and my lesson contract, which we will talk about at the end. And we're going to talk about all these items in detail as we get started here. So when do you start these lessons? When's the ideal time that you can hopefully try to advertise, especially if you're wanting to teach young students, when you can maybe talk to the band directors and say, can I try to start working with your students? So I think the best time is the summer before they start their first year of band. If you can get them before they're actually in band class, it's going to be so much better. These students often feel very overwhelmed in band, and they just want to focus on playing their band music well, which is great that they want to do that, but in terms of learning the horn, the band books are not always the best option. So if you can get them before they go into band, so you can just focus on horn stuff, so that way when they get into band that first day and they already play some notes, they understand some fingerings, they're going to feel so much better. And that's the ideal world. A lot of times that's not the case. A lot of times you get them once they've already gotten into band, and then you just figure it out, and usually have to work a little more out of the band book then, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Just, I think it's a little better if you can get them before that actually happens. So today, as Bernhard mentioned a little earlier, we have a very special helper, and this is Maddie Scully, Bernhard's youngest daughter. And she's not your average beginner player. She's obviously grown up in a very musical family. And as we were watching videos yesterday of her playing horn, how young was she? 3. So that is not the norm. But she has graciously agreed to be our beginner student for today. So Maddie, can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, just like how old you are, what year in school you are, maybe like what you've done so far besides like the videos we saw with the mini horn, like what you've done so far on the horn. So yeah, how old are you? Let's start with that.
9.
Okay, so you're going into what grade then? 5th grade. You're going to start band on horn, right, once you get to school this year?
Yeah.
Nice. And you said you've taken a couple lessons or just played along with your dad a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And your sister. So what have you kind of played with them? Do you remember?
My sister taught me a few notes.
Mm-hmm.
A, C, C, D,
Awesome.
E, and F.
Okay, great. And you also play piano too, right? Or you did play piano. You still play piano? A little bit? Okay. So it also helps when your student already reads music, because that's one less thing you have to, start from ground zero at. But we're not even really worried about reading music even in this first lesson anyway. So we're gonna pretend that Maddie, this is your first day ever opening the case, holding the instrument, anything, because that's often how you get these new students. They pick up their instrument and then just kind of come right to you asking for help. So we're gonna, remember as a teacher, take it slowly. The fewer instructions and the simpler instructions, the better, because you don't want to leave your student feeling overwhelmed. So building rapport, that was my first thing, right? So I want you to build some trust with your student, right? They often are meeting you for the first time, you're a stranger to them, and you want them to feel comfortable in lessons. Lessons are supposed to be fun, so it's definitely something you don't want to just, hi, let's get this out right away, right? You want to make them feel comfortable. And something just to consider, I wish I might have thought of this in some of my earlier teaching jobs, is how you want to be addressed, which might sound like, again, something that you don't even really think about, but usually students are used to addressing adults, as Mr., Ms., Miss, however, and then their last name, or do you want to be called by your first name? I know often, like, especially when I was younger, and even still, when you're addressed by your first name, it almost takes away a little bit teacher almost in the student size, but it also makes you more approachable, so pros and cons. But if you're teaching in one school, it might be best to have all your students call you the same thing. So just think about that before you get started. How I would normally start is kind of something like, hi Maddie, my name is Sadie, and I am so excited to be your horn teacher. I started playing horn when I was also going into 5th grade, and I was lucky to have a horn teacher right from the beginning too, so I'm really excited to work with you. I also like to tell them a little bit about myself too, try to like be a little relatable. So Maddie, I live in California, and I have 2 kids and 2 dogs. I know you have a dog too, and my dogs are just as crazy as yours, lots of kisses. And since moving to California, I love going to Disneyland. I go every year, and it's so much fun. What do you like to do for fun, Maddie?
I like to do gymnastics.
Awesome. I love to watch gymnastics, but I never got into it, and I wish I did. It looks like so much fun. So I just like to build a little rapport. I might talk a little more, but it's really nice to have a short conversation just to get them talking and feeling comfortable. So taking the horn out of the case, this might seem really simple, but it's a foreign object to them, and we want to be able to have them treat their horn with respect, not break it. So it's a really good idea not to skip this and spend time like practicing in and out and in and out and a couple times, because they will forget. So we're going to start with that today. So I'm going to tilt the camera down a little bit for a second here. All right, Maddie. So like I just told them, we want to make sure we don't drop our horn and we pick it up from the right places. So what I want you to do, we're going to move these books out of the way, is take your horn and lay it flat with the book pouch up. Perfect. Unzip it. Awesome. Cool. And we're just going to back it up a little bit for the camera. So you definitely want to show them before you, I know you know how to grab it, Maddie. You want to show them where you should not grab it and where you should, right? So pointing out like, look how there's larger sections of the horn and smaller sections, right? We don't really ever want to grab it from these small sections. We always want to grab it from the larger sections, and to take it out, it's a good idea to kind of grab over in this section and pull it out and then grab it by the bell and take it out that way. So demo and then have them try. So your turn, Maddie. Perfect. Great, and then turn it around. Yep, and then also a good place to grab it, I'm gonna just show you, is like here and where your hands go. Perfect, and now let's practice putting it back in the case now. So let's turn it around. And now I want you to put it with this part going in first. Great, and then you kind of have to push it in. Perfect. Can you take it out again? Great, awesome. So have them do it a couple times so they get practice with that. So again, they can go home and do it the right way, or when they're in band class and hurrying and thinking about a lot of other things besides their horn. They don't pull their lead pipe out or something. Okay, so the next thing I like to talk about is going to be buzzing and mouthpiece placement. And I like to see what the student does naturally with this before intervening too much, because you don't want to be complicated about like, let's do like 2/3 upper, 1/3 lower, and let's think about these things when we're buzzing, and because maybe you don't even have to say any of it. Maybe you can jump right into buzzing. Are there some questions that you want to answer right now? or
I don't think there are any questions at the moment. There are just some people commenting in the chat. So
okay.
keep going.
Cool.
You're doing great.
Cool. So Maddie, what mouthpiece do you use? There's 2 in here.
I use this.
Okay. Awesome. So before you put in your case, actually, I'm going to take your horn. I'll take it for you. We're going to just start with buzzing.
Hang on just a second.
Oh, 1 second here.
frozen for me.
Oh.
If you can hear me, sorry for the delay. If you can't, oh no. Did it cut out?
I don't think so.
Okay, great, sorry. All right, that was just on my end. Sadie, please continue, I'm so sorry.
I think we're okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great, okay, so, buzzing. So, Maddie, do you remember how to make a buzz on your mouthpiece? Awesome. Can you, and I'm gonna make sure I got my mouthpiece handy too, so we can do a lot of this together too, because it's always good to build confidence in your student by doing things with them and not always making them play by themselves. So, do you think you could show me what you remember and see if you can make a buzz? Any note that comes out is gonna be awesome. Nice, awesome. Can we do that together? Can you hum what you just played? Nice. Can we do it again? Awesome. And can you hold your mouthpiece down here with just 2 fingers so I can see a little more? Can you do it again? Do you still hear that pitch? Can you hum it? Nice. Awesome. Now, can you try to maneuver the pitch a little bit? So, or move it up and down, kind of like a police siren. So I'm going to show you first. 1 second, I'm just gonna say, now we can do, right, a much larger range. I usually don't like to show my students that because they're not gonna be able to do that, and then they're just gonna feel bad if they can't do that, right? So if you just show something that's actually possible for them to do, model that and not show them like what you're able to do. Okay, so yeah, again, Maddie, just can we try that together? Nice. And you do that by trying to blow faster, like you're trying to blow a cantaloupe further away from you. Can you try it again? Awesome. Great job. Okay, so if you don't have a student like Maddie who's been buzzing a horn since she was 3, and they're struggling, you can take a break from that and try a couple different things. So one of the ones that I like is by getting them to do what I think this came from Lynn Folk's book, or Lynn Baird's book, where she calls it like the poo. So getting students to like say like you're thinking and contemplating, like and then holding that, so you got your firm corners, and then getting them to say poo while holding that poo, poo, and then eventually stop saying poo and blow So that's a way you can try to get a buzz. It is hard to get buzz, right? When you're first starting out, and that is they all giggle when you ask them to say poo. But I always try to say Winnie the Pooh. So that is another way to try to help them get buzzing. If they are struggling though, move on fast, because maybe it'll work once they get on the horn too, right? It's easier to play on the horn than on the mouthpiece. And you don't want them to feel discouraged. So I always, if something isn't working, I try to move quickly to something else and make the student not feel like it's their fault that something's not working, and just find a new creative solution that gets feeling good about their playing. So once you have the buzz, like Maddie does, then I like to go in and just check like that 2/3 upper lip, 1/3 lower lip after they're already playing. So Maddie, does anybody, and well, actually I shouldn't do this. This is our first lesson, so no one has shown you anything. Can you put your mouthpiece up to buzz for me again? Nice. And she already has pretty good placement, but I'm gonna just pretend right now that she doesn't. So, Maddie, it's really important as horn players that we put our mouthpiece in the right place on our face, right? If we still like, if we try to play out the side of our mouth, it's not gonna sound very good. But even in the middle, there's this like better place to put it. So we are going to take our second valve out of our horn. And I'm gonna show you where I like here. You just hold on a second. I'm gonna show you where I like to put my mouthpiece. We got our built-in mouthpiece visualizer, right? So this is when I show them that you usually want to see a little bit of your skin above your top lip. You want 2/3 upper lip and 1/3 lower lip, not 50-50, not bottom lip. You want more top lip than bottom lip, okay? So I'm gonna put mine away. And usually I just, at this point, because they don't know how to take their slides in and out, there's not time to show them that and pushing down your valve to take them out. So I'm just gonna take my students, Maddie's slide out, and again, we're lucky because this is a well-maintained horn. Who knows if the horn that you're working with can even have the slides come out. Hopefully they can. So Maddie, I want you to do the same thing with yours now. Can you put this up to your face here? I recommend holding it here so you don't get sticky from the slide grease. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, maybe a little bit lower. That seems like higher than where you were playing before. Perfect. So now you're most likely in a room without a mirror. So the more you can like reinforce things for them to take home and see again, the better. So most people are gonna have a phone with them. So what I like to do at this point is to take my phone or their phone, because who knows if a 5th grader has a phone, but maybe they do. And I want you to have them, we've got selfie mode, right? So here's our mirror. So Maddie, can you do that again? And I'm gonna hold this up so you can see. So see how you can definitely see more skin above your lip. So that looks really good. And then I'm even going to go so far as to take a selfie, and then I'm gonna send it to her later so she can see this when she goes home and remember what we did. And also share it with the parents, so their parents, hopefully you can get the parents involved and have the parents see what we're doing so they can also help them practice and know what to say to their kids. Okay, so now I've got 2/3 upper, 1/3 lower. Can you put your mouthpiece back up to your face now and try putting your mouthpiece in that same spot? Yeah, can you take that? Yeah, looks good. You want to buzz one more time? Nice, awesome. That sounds so great. And then I'm gonna take care of putting their slide back in their horn again because we don't have time today to talk about how to take slides in and out. I'm just seeing my notes here. Okay, so we've got our mouthpiece buzzing. We're building momentum. So let's get them playing because I have definitely been in situations as a teacher teaching this first lesson where I have spent way too much time talking and it's almost over and we haven't even gotten to play on the horn yet. So you definitely don't want them feeling like, well, Mom, I didn't actually play my horn in this lesson. So we want to get them playing. Maddie, can you take your horn out of your case again for me? Awesome. And then you're getting ahead of me, Maddie, so you also have to show them how to put their mouthpiece in their horn. So Maddie, can you take it out again? I know you know how to do it, but again, very important that you teach them how to do this. So put it in, yeah, and then just give it a light twist. You don't want to crank it in, just a light twist, as you all know too, hopefully, but that is an important step to not skip over. I'm just gonna move your case out of the way here, Maddie. All right, and then making sure I'm not skipping anything here. Okay, so the first couple notes I like to play on the horn are just let them see what comes out, because some people are going to naturally play maybe like a middle C, and then other people might be wanting like naturally just playing higher, some naturally lower. And again, like if you would open up that beginning band book, you're probably gonna see a C, or maybe sometimes A's, And it can be really discouraging for those players that can't play in that range right from the beginning and seeing these notes and they can't get them, but they can get higher ones or vice versa. So it's great, again, if you can just work without that band book or without any music for a little bit and just experiment and have them have fun making sounds on their horn. So I'm gonna grab my horn too here, Maddie. Okay, so we're gonna do just that, Maddie. So I want you to pick up your horn, and we'll talk about posture in a minute here, and I know you're on a tall bench. Here, actually, Maddie, can you stand up for a second? I'm just gonna pull this out. There you go. So you can still sit, oh yeah, more in the middle if you need to. Okay, I want you to play any note that can come out. Nice, can you do it again? Nice, can you hum it? Can we do it together? Nice, can we do it shorter, like bum, 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 ready? Nice, that sounds really good. Now, can you try and experiment and see what happens if you play with faster air? Nice, what happened?
It went higher.
Yeah, it went higher, awesome. Can we try doing that again? Can you do the same thing, play that first note? Can you hum that first note? Yeah, it's a low note for us to hum. Go for it, can you play it? No, faster air again, bump. Now go back down. Nice, you're getting ahead of me, you're playing another note. Here, can we try that together? So let's try, ooh, sorry, I bumped you. Can we play that first note again? And then I'm gonna show you, hopefully you can try to move up to the second note together. Can we try it? Now faster air. Can we go back to the first one? Yeah, nice. And this is where I might spend some time just noodling around with them and having fun and just making some sounds. Again, it's just all about like making them feel confident in their sounds and reminding them too that today we're not going to be playing probably a song that they're going to recognize, and that's okay because we're going to build up to it, okay? So they're not going to walk away from this lesson, as you know, but you might have to remind them, you know, playing whatever the newest favorite song is, nothing from Encanto today. So that's on at our house a lot. We don't talk about Bruno, right? Yeah, we kind of experiment around with that for a little bit. So let's take a break from playing though right now, Maddie, for a minute here and talk posture. So Maddie, like many beginning horn players, is a little too small for like even the chair or the bench that she's using. The horn is too big for her in a lot of respects. So we need to find ways to make her feel comfortable playing the horn. So again, it doesn't lead to bad habits down the road, right? So this is one of those things that we want to make sure we just talk about right away. And I'm going to probably say this again, but the more you just like don't make a big deal out of things and just say this is what we do, the better, because kids are really great at it. You just tell them what to do and they'll do it. But if you say like this is going to be really hard or a lot of people do this wrong, then there's already like a little bit of fear built in. So don't do that. You just tell them that this is what we're going to do and they'll be happy to give it a try. So the first thing we did, we actually did this before we started, but just to show you, so Maddie can't reach the floor. So, oops, let me move. So we put some books under her feet. Yeah, but it's a little more comfortable. So that's something that like you probably have done for piano too, I'm guessing. I remember doing that for piano. So we put some books under her feet, first thing. Maddie, can you put your horn up again, like you're gonna play? Don't actually play, but just put your horn up. Cool, so you can see that she's twisting her body to try to get the horn in the right place. So we wanna fix that. And even still, we probably would like another book and probably like 2 sets of books for her, but we just don't have enough books right now, so she can like move her feet out a little bit. So first thing, Maddie, you wanna scooch back on the piano bench a little bit? Perfect, I know then your feet are a little lower. Okay, great, so we wanna make sure, right, that they're not twisting, right? You don't wanna play like this. You see this a ton in horn playing. That they're, sitting straight up and down and sitting tall, right? So Maddie, if you try that, you're probably gonna say, well, now my mouthpiece is gonna hit the middle of my forehead. So Maddie could probably get away with just keeping it on her leg. But if you do have a student that's really tiny, and I've definitely had students like this, actually, can you scooch over a little more? Thanks, just like right here. So I've even taken and have advised students to sit on a piano bench so they can put their bell. It's not perfect, and you probably wanna sit back even more, but then you really can't touch the floor, I know. Here, put another one under your feet. There you go. You can sit forward, you don't have to lean back. There you go. So that way they can actually have their bell next to them, because it's really hard for these younger students to hold their bell up. It's just gonna be too heavy. They might be able to do it, for a minute, but they're gonna put it down and then they're gonna go back to their twisting and, so you can try that, but I don't know that Maddie needs to do that. Yeah, so the other thing we can do is to advise them, and a lot of students don't like this, and I get it too. It feels kind of weird to be sitting with your legs really spread, but if you move your right leg out a little bit, and I know your stack of books is limiting you, you can, let's try this. There we go, that's a little better. You can change your angle of your lead pipe, so can we try that together? So this is what I'm gonna show you. So you're gonna start with your legs just how you had them before, like that. And I forgot to ask too, I know Maddie, so I am feeling comfortable like moving her around, but I always ask if it's okay to touch and move a student. So just always remember to ask first. So yeah, let's put your legs or your feet down. Okay, so put your horn up. Great, so I'm just gonna move your knee. So can you, I just want you to see what happens. See how your lead pipe is kind of like, it's not, usually you can see, I'm gonna show you on me. So if I move my right leg, you can't see in the camera. So right now my mouthpiece is hitting my nose. That's not great. So if I move my leg out here, just watch me, Maddie. So if I move my leg, see how my lead pipe is now lower? So now I'm gonna go back in again. So see how it's like changing where it is on my face? It's like taking it up and down. So I want you to try, you're already sitting a little wider than you were before. So that looks good. Nice, and I know it's still a little big. So the last thing I would do, I don't have mine with me, but if you add to the students like 2 buy list for their parents, a chamois for waxing your car, because that little bit of leather, if you put it on their pants or your right leg, is gonna help grip your horn. I still have it, I just don't have my modern horn here. This is actually Bernhard's horn I'm borrowing. I always have a chamois in my case. I don't use it anymore for helping my bell on my leg. That's now the rag that I use for wiping up grease and everything. So it's just stuck with me since my beginning horn teacher had me do that. So yeah, I would suggest, we'll talk to mom and dad later about adding that to the list of things to get for horn lessons. That's just gonna help them. Another thing we can try too, Maddie, I know we had you sit back before, that was to show the book thing. Can you scooch forward? Yeah, and then we're gonna look at these stacks of books. Yeah, is that as far forward as you feel comfortable going? Okay, then we should scooch to the back. Okay. If you're sitting further forward, your legs are parallel to the floor versus, you don't want them like slanted, right? Because that's gonna make the bell fall off too. So can you pick your horn up one more time and see if this is helping more? Might be too tall now. Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. It's still a little tall, but not too bad. Okay, so we talked about posture now. I probably actually wouldn't spend as much time as we just did, because again, we're kind of going back and forth. Because you don't want them to get bored, right? We don't want to lose our students in the lesson. So then I talk about a little bit about how you use your hands. So Maddie, our hands are really almost part of our instrument for horn playing. Left hand, not so much. We need it for pushing the buttons, but it doesn't really change our sound too much. So you said you play piano. Now when you play piano, do you play like this or like this? Curled, right? A little curled. So I think about like how I have my left hand, I'm always pretending there's a baseball in my hand. So can you put your, you don't have to hold up your whole horn, but can you just put your fingers on your keys and see if you can give them, I know the hand is a little, the hand grip is a little big, but as much as you can curl your fingers as much as possible, that's great. And you want to keep your fingers on those valves all the time. And that in this first lesson, that's all I say about that. Eventually down the road, there's so many students that you have to fix about fingers that are flying, or people that take their their fourth finger, your third valve finger off the valve completely and just rest it on the side. But if you just say today, you're gonna curl your fingers and keep them on, that's all you need to say today. But then the other thing, I definitely teach right hand placement from day one, because again, if you just don't make a big deal out of it, it's gonna be fine. And especially if you show them how to sit properly so that they don't feel like they have to hold their bell to like keep their horn from falling, they usually can do it, and you just don't make a big deal out of it. You just say, this is how you do it, and then they usually do. So Maddie, our right hand is part of our instrument. So I'm gonna show you what I mean by that. So, and I'll show them too. I wanna like actually turn around and show what I'm doing. So if I play, I'm gonna take my hand in and out of the bell, and I want you to tell me what you hear. So what's happening?
It sounds like a siren.
It does sound like a siren, right? And I can even do fun things, so I try to make it goofy, right? Anytime you can try to just make it more personable, interactive. And show them all the funny things we can do with our hand. That's always fun. And I know you've heard these sounds before, Maddie, so it's not a surprise to you, but to most horn students that you're going to be working with, they've probably never heard that before. So they'll probably get a kick out of it and have a nice little funny moment with you. So Maddie, what we're going to do with our right hand, because horns are actually built a little out of tune, or not like, we think of intonation, I like to talk of intonation, I probably may not even mention it actually, but you know what I'm talking about a little bit more, is like a bullseye. So horns are kind of built to miss the bullseye. So by putting our right hand, it kind of helps us like play right where we want to. So first thing we're going to think about, Maddie, is our horn is a clock, okay? So if this line off of the main part of our horn is 12 o'clock, then we move over to 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, okay? So on your horn again, we've got 12 o'clock right here and 3 o'clock. That's what we just really want to focus on, is 12 to 3 right here. And we're going to put our hand in that like 1 to 2 o'clock position. But before we put it in there, first thing I want you to do is take your hand, and give it a shake, okay? Do the hokey pokey and shake it all about. Okay, now let it go limp by your body, okay? And now freeze it and pull it up. So see how your horn, I keep saying your horn, your hand is naturally curved, right? Your hand's not like stiff, right? So it's naturally curved, right? So that's kind of what you want your hand to be like in the bell. You want it to feel comfortable. You don't want to have any strain anywhere, okay? So now let's flip our hand over and pretend you're trying to cup water, okay? You don't want any gaps in your fingers, right, when you're trying to cup water, especially your thumb. That's where you always see it. Students always do this. So making sure there's no gaps. Awesome. Know what, and then I'm advised too, so Maddie, you're wearing a ring. Do you think you could put that ring on your other hand? Just to keep, it's a beautiful butterfly ring too, so it's gonna stick out a little more than some others. Awesome, thank you. That's gonna help. All right, dropping our water, right? Can you do that for me again? Cool, so now what you're gonna do is I'm gonna show you on mine. So again, here's 12, here's 3. So I'm gonna take my cupped hand and put my hand at that 1 to 2 o'clock spot. And I'm looking at right here, this knuckle and my thumb is what I'm feeling for, okay? So this is where I, again, make sure it's okay to touch your student. So I'm gonna help you find that, okay? So I know it's hard that you can't see here. No, I might even just hold your horn so you can see. Here's 12 and here's 3. So you're gonna kind of put your hand right about here. Okay, so you also want to think, I love this analogy to tell them how far to put their hand in, is I want you to imagine that you can stick another hand in the bell next to your hand. Okay, if there's not enough room for somebody else's hand to squeeze in there, that means you put your hand in too far. And if you feel like several hands can fit in the bell, that means it's not in far enough. Okay, so can you put it in again? Yeah, so right now that probably is a little too far, okay? So maybe like right there, okay? Yeah, perfect. Good check. Okay, so now here, why don't you hold the horn? Let's see if we can find that spot. It's kind of like right here. Can you put your horn up to your face? There you go. And I'm gonna help you. So again, it's hard. Her arm is not quite long enough, but we can still get it pretty close, okay? And once they start getting a little bigger, then you can worry a little bit about like making sure your hand is open. But that looks pretty good, Maddie. Does that feel okay? Okay, so this is when my masking tape comes into play, or my painter's tape. If you do painter's tape, it's easier to get off. It's blue, so they can see it. So I actually put a piece of tape in their bell, and it should be fine for a couple weeks. Just don't forget about it. So that way, they can always find that tape. And I tell them, like, find it with your, like, thumb knuckle, and just find that spot, and always put your hand there, okay? So can you do that? Can you hold your horn up for me again? With your hand in the bell. I'm just gonna, here, put it up to your face. Okay, and I'm gonna just open your elbow, put it down a little bit like here. Okay, can you take your hand out? So I'm gonna put a little piece of tape. And you might have to play around with it a little bit. I never stick it on all the way the first try. Okay, can you try putting your hand in again and feel for that tape? So that's kind of where your thumb is going to be, okay? And then you do want to open up your elbow a little bit if you can. Okay, how's that feel? Good? Okay, so again, I'm just going to show everybody at home. So I just put that tape, let's stick it down now. Just a little piece of tape right there so they can just feel, where's that tape? And they just don't even have to think about it. They just, oh, where's the tape? Okay, that's where I put my hand. Again, don't forget about it. I've had that happen where it's like a year later and it's like, oh, you didn't take that out? I guess I should have reminded you. I'm sorry, and it's fine. It'll still come out. But you don't need it sitting there that long usually. I've even done this with adult students. So this is, I think, a really useful tip to make sure that they don't have to think about it. They just feel for it. Great, so then this is kind of to the point that you're probably gonna start running out of time. So, depending how much time you have, you might just have to pack up. But for right now, because we still have time, so we're gonna use it, we are gonna do more playing. So the more playing you can get in this lesson, the better. It's just gonna make them feel like, A, they're having more fun, and just build more confidence, and give them something to do when they go home. So we're again pretending that band has not started, and this is the summer before, so we can just do whatever we want and not have to follow a band book. So I made this little printout that you also have in my handouts that is actually, full disclosure, I've never actually written this out and given to a student before. So I wrote this for this class. We've done things like this, but again, usually I actually have to work out of a band book, but I thought for this mock lesson, we'd give this a try. Maddie, this is what I'm gonna send you home with this week to start playing through and practicing, okay? So I'm gonna explain this worksheet. 1 second. first line, we're also pretending that they've never seen music before. So that first line in this sheet, and I don't know, Elizabeth, should we screen share? Do you want to screen share this? Is that possible? Cool.
We can do that. Hang on. Just a second.
Sorry, we said we weren't screen sharing, so I'm putting her on the spot. But if I'm
Which?
the first lessons, first notes.
Hold please, just fan for a second.
Oh, that's okay. So I can still explain the first line, even though you can't, that it's not up yet. So the first line is just explaining some rhythmic values, and I really don't care if they know that a whole note is 4 beats, half notes 2, a quarter notes 1. As long as they just understand long, short, and shorter, that's okay for right now. I did write what those notes are called and how many beats they would get, so they have that correct information. But again, especially when you're working with someone who's never seen a piece of music before, and you just want to get them playing long, medium, short. That's all you have to worry about, okay? So then the second line, where it says play, so again, this is what we were doing earlier, where I want them to just play any note that comes out and try to hold it, and then play it shorter, and then rest, and then play it again for shorter, rest, play it again for longer. Just simple exercises, little long tone exercises, right? So Maddie, let's give this a try. And actually, if you do have time for this and you're using a sheet similar to this, you want to make sure they understand how to read this, because I feel like even maybe some adults I'd want to explain this to. So definitely would want to explain this to my beginning students. So Maddie, so this first line here, or the second line, so any note that comes out, right? So I want you to try to play that same note for long, and then play it for a medium length, rest for a little bit, medium length, rest for a little bit, and then a long note again, okay? So any note that comes out, you want to give that a try, and we're going to remember all the things we talked about, so making sure, there you go. Oh, I will say this in a second. I want to talk about lead pipe angle, but we'll play it for a second. So let's find that tape. We're going to open up your elbow a little bit. Okay. Nice. So can you hum that note? Yeah, I can't sing that low either. So now you play it long, medium, rest, long. That sounded great. Can we do it one more time? And I'm going to do it with you. I probably should have done it with her the first time too. Let's try it again. Can you hum that note? Ready? Rest. Rest. Awesome job, Maddie. That sounded great. Okay, so now we're going to look at the third line here. So now I want you to play the same note we were just playing, and then see how this note, how would you describe this second note in bar 9? Does it look like, is it on the same line? Yeah. What is it, higher or lower than the first note? Higher. Awesome. So we're going to use our air to try to play faster air again to play a higher note. So we're going to play the note we were just on, the and then you're going to try to speed your air up to play the next note up. So let's not even focus on playing this whole line. Let's just try getting those 2 notes. So let's play that first one. Nice. Can you play faster air to get the next note? Nice. Can you hum those 2 notes? Nice. Let's do it again. Awesome. Great. So now if we try playing this line, so these are, again, our medium notes, okay? Medium long. So we're trying to go back and forth between low to higher to low to higher to low to higher to low for a longer note. Can we try that? Awesome, Maddie. That sounded so good. So now called quarter notes. So now can we do that same thing? Bum, 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 rest, for a long note. Okay, can we try that? On that first note with me? Okay. Awesome, that sounded so good. Awesome. The fast notes are coming out too, and the rest are coming out. Again, I'm not worried about slurring or tonguing. She's doing a little bit of both right now. I'm just caring that she's getting the notes and still having a good time and not getting frustrated or upset at all. Looks like you're still having a good time, so, and feeling confident. Okay, so things are going well, so we're gonna go on to trying to get the next highest harmonic. If that is a struggle, stop there, right? Don't try to make them do more than what they're able to do. But since we are doing a really good job, can we try this line, bar 17, of going from the lowest note you're just playing, then the next note, can we get one note higher? Can we try that? Let's actually not even look at this line necessarily, but just trying to play those three notes, okay? I'm gonna help you for a second. It looks like it's sliding a little. So this is where I was saying, remember, we're gonna talk to mom and dad about getting a chamois for their right leg so that the horn isn't sliding off her leg, okay? Okay, great. And I know she's twisting a little bit, so I'm gonna always try to redirect her a little. But it's hard because the horn is sliding off her leg right now. Hopefully you're not in a chair too that's so tall. But anyway, let's try that. And see if we can get one more higher. Awesome job, Matt. You got it. That sounds so good. So can we try doing this? These are the medium notes again, right? These half notes. Bum, 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 and then a long note. Can we try that together? All right, ready? Here, let's try it. There you go. Good work. Ready? Big breath. Yeah, that's good. That's as long as we need to play. Great, and then the last thing you're gonna do is play that again, but shorter notes, okay? Bum, 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 bum. Can you try that with me? 1, 2, ready. Whoops, let's try it one more time, maybe a little slower. Ready? Big breath. Let's go back down. Nice job, Maddie. That sounded awesome. Cool. How are your lips feeling? Good, or are they starting to get a little tired? Medium? Okay. So then the last thing I'm gonna say, so this is what you're gonna practice, Maddie. So you can do this worksheet just like we just did. We can also do the same thing with playing your second bell down the whole time. So I probably, depending for time again, maybe I wouldn't have done the whole worksheet with them, but I definitely wanna show them putting down the second valve and not just saying read this little blurb at the bottom and see what you can do, right? They're not gonna do that. So explaining let's try that again. So actually, can we just play this first line? Same thing, we're gonna do the same thing we were just doing, that first note, but now we're gonna put our second button down, our third finger, which is on the second button. Can you do that? Nice, so then the note changed, right? Right, cool, so we can do that same thing of playing that low note, the middle note, and then the higher note, And then you can do the same thing with the first valve. I'd probably explain that a little more detail, but we're starting to run out of time here, so we're gonna kind of breeze over that right now. So another thing before you have them go home is you want to lay out clear practice expectations, because if you just say, okay, Maddie, sounds good, I'll see you next week, they're not gonna know what to do. Parents hopefully also will be involved and will also want to know, like, what should they be doing? So clear expectations. So Maddie, I want you this week to try to practice for 15 minutes every other day. So I always set an attainable practice goal as well. So what you're gonna do when you start playing is every day you are going to take your mouth, your second valve out. Again, only if it's easy. If it's stuck, that's not possible. And you're gonna look in the mirror and look at that picture we took and make sure that your mouthpiece is in the right place. Not enough hands, huh? Yep, you're gonna start by doing that. Awesome, and double checking that and remembering where that feels on your face. And then the next thing you're gonna do is take your mouthpiece and buzz on your mouthpiece like we did today. So taking and buzzing one note, any note that comes out. Need help? There you go. So buzzing any note and then try and move it up and down. Okay, and I would also have this written down for them. And then the last thing you're gonna do is play through this sheet. You're gonna start with doing it without any buttons. And then if you have more time, if you still have 15 minutes going, then do the whole thing again with your second valve pressed down the whole time. And then do it, if you have more time, try with your first button pushed down the whole time, okay? And I want you to actually set a timer of 15 minutes so you make sure you get the full time in, okay? And if you are feeling like they're struggling to, you could even do a little video recording of playing through the sheet so that way they can hear it. That would also be a really good thing to send them home with. But that's kind of what I do for my first lesson. So then I'm gonna ask Maddie too. Maddie, do you have any questions about what you need to do? How many days to practice, for how long? Do you know what you're doing? Great. And then the other thing I want you to do, I forgot to talk about this. I want you to write down for next time, when you're doing this worksheet, I want you to write down so you remember what you thought went well and what you think you might want to ask for more help with for next time, okay? So we can talk about that, okay? But so what went well with doing this practice and what you think you might want to have a little more help with, okay? So then we gotta put our horn away. So we're gonna quickly show how to empty the water. There's probably not gonna be any water because we barely play in this first lesson. So Maddie, I want you to take your mouthpiece out. Let's put that in the case. And then what we're gonna do is you're gonna take your horn and you're gonna take it and tip it clockwise. And then, yeah, keep pulling on, let it rest on that side of your leg, and take this guy and pull him out. And you do that, great. And then we're just gonna empty it. Why don't you empty it over here so it doesn't get us wet. Keep twisting. There you go. Now dump it out. Yeah, nothing came out. Okay, put it back in. And just say too, we'll talk about this more next time. You know, Maddie, we're gonna do this so it's easier to put it back. There you go. But you can at least show them a quick empty. All right, can you put your horn in your case then? See if they remember how to do this. So lead pipe first, or this part first. We didn't actually say what a lead pipe is yet. You can talk about horn anatomy another time too. Great, and then we just zip it up. And you are all set. Awesome. Well, Maddie, I think that's all we need you for unless anybody has a question for Maddie. I'm guessing more of the questions are for me, if there's questions.
So I'm not seeing any questions at the moment, but if you have any, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat now.
Thanks, Maddie. If you want to go and head out, you are more than welcome to do that. But really, thank you so much. You sounded so great today. I really appreciate your help. So everybody at home is giving you a little round of applause.
Yes.
Too. So cool. Thanks, Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie.
questions, let me know. Oh, actually, before questions too, the lesson contract, that's really important. So you wanna make sure you've got your lesson contract ready to go for this first lesson, maybe even giving it to the parents before the first lesson. I definitely didn't have a lesson contract for many years, and then I started talking to more friends and people with much bigger studios, and it was like, oh, yes, that's a good idea to have very clear expectations, so you don't get taken advantage of, you get paid on time, and things still happen where you still might have issues, but hopefully, by having a contract, you can just refer back to it and it's going to be less awkward. And there is a contract that I put in my handouts. But yeah, you wanna make sure you've got clear language about payment, cancellations, sickness. And mine is not perfect. I always find things that I wanna change, but it's some place to start. I do have a hard time putting my foot down about like last minute cancellations sometimes, especially if you have a good relationship with a student and it's like, oh, I forgot I had a math test tomorrow, and really I should say, well, sorry, you still should pay me. But sometimes I have a hard time doing that. I should be better about it. Another thing, don't forget to build in raises for yourself, because most other professions get raises. And if you just have it written into your contract, like something along the lines of, you have the right to raise rates at any time which will reflect like the housing costs and the inflation with housing costs or something like that. So it might just go up like 1% a year or something. It's just good, so then if you've been teaching for 5 years and everybody else in the area is all of a sudden teaching lessons at $10 more per hour than you are, and you're kind of feeling stuck, then when you raise your rates, hopefully your students and the parents won't feel as shocked by it. And I always like, if there's someone that I can help and work with that maybe can't afford it, like I definitely have students at different rates too, depending on the situation. So yeah, it's a little bit about the contract, but it's really good to have, and to have it the first lesson, so it's not like a month later, and you're like, oh, I forgot to give this to you. So yeah, are there any last questions?
I don't see any in the
Okay.
chat right now, which is okay, so I'll switch over to myself.
Cool.
Yeah, so Sadie, thank you so much again. Of course, I'm gesturing to her because she's right there. I'm sure you can tell. But Sadie, thanks again for being here today. And thank you all for attending this session of Horn Camp Connect, live from KBHC 2022. This session, if you'd like to rewatch it, will be live on our YouTube page either later today or tomorrow sometime. And it'll be there for about a month. Tomorrow's session is with Natalie Grana, and it will be on her forthcoming book, A Singing Approach to Horn Playing. So come back for that, come back for some solfege, it's gonna be great. And we'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern.